Hi, this is Ken McCarthy, and welcome to the Real Food Channel. And this is the channel that talks about health. We used to focus on food alone, and food certainly is a very important element of the total equation when it comes to health. But the more you study health, the more you realize that there's a whole lot more environmental toxins, toxins in products, toxins in our indoor environment. There's a lot going on, and the more you know, the more you can protect yourself. And today we've got a very interesting guest, and coincidentally I've lately been very interested in sound and the use of sound in healing. This is something that we know goes way back. We know that some of the Egyptian temples, for example, way back thousands of years ago, were designed with unique acoustic properties. They've found temple sites in the island of Malta which are literally designed to create sounds at particular frequencies. I have a friend that traveled extensively in China studying pretty advanced internal martial arts and healing, and he said it's not dominant, but there are some people here and there that have an unbelievable knowledge of using healing and tones, music and sound and tones to help heal. I also have a musician friend, now passed away, Ornette Coleman, who visited the high mountains of Morocco, where he played music with the master musicians of Jujuka, and they had an ancient tradition of treating schizophrenia with the tones of a horn. So this is something that's been around since, who knows how long, but certainly thousands of years. We seem to have lost track of it in recent history, and today we're going to be talking with somebody who's bringing this knowledge and advancing it into the present day. Her name is Sherry Edwards. Welcome, Sherry.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. I love what you're doing. I love your service to the public. You're one of the good guys.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks so much. So I know you've told this story a lot. I'm going to ask you to tell it one more time. How did you discover that you had a unique gift of both hearing and vocal production?
It was kind of an accident. I was typing a paper on tinnitus. I was working my way through college, and they said hearing sounds is a form of sickness. It's tinnitus. And I thought, well, I'm working in the speech and hearing department. Why don't I just have my ears tested? And sure enough, my hearing is off the scale. And the guy that was testing my ears said, what do these sound like? And so I did one of the sounds, and he nearly dropped to his knees. He had high blood pressure, and he felt it cause his blood pressure to drop. I think the universe is guiding all of this, because it's so perfectly put together. He was a student of the samurai warriors, and I've since found out more about that. They yelled at their opponent at the point of attack, and it was to lower the opponent's blood pressure. And so that's what he was experiencing, and he was a young man. He wanted to start a family, and his high blood pressure medication was rendering him impotent. So that was going to be hard to start a family. We put together a project, and we're testing people, the sounds I heard and how it affected their blood pressure. That was the very first paper we did, and it was in the 70s. Now, that's the official story. Mm-hmm. The real story is I had been hearing the sounds all of my life, and I lived up in the Appalachian Mountains. No electricity, no running water, no extra sounds. And so I was paying attention to what was going on, what chickens sound like, what a tree sounds like, because there was nothing else to do. And I was fascinated by it, but I didn't know what it was. I just thought everybody did it because I was so young. And Tomatis, he's dead now, but he's from France, and he says, Alfred Tomatis says, that your hearing develops by what you hear. And I had no interference with my hearing. So I think I began to hear differently. And when something happened, I could hear the sounds, I'd do the sounds, and migraines would go away. And I remember once my Aunt Georgie, somebody asked her something, and she didn't answer right away, and I answered for her, and she said, "I didn't say that. I just thought it, you little witch." So that scared people, and I sort of kept it to myself. But I would just use it to calm people down, and it was innate. It was nothing I planned, nothing I learned. It was just there.
Sorry to interrupt, but would you produce actual sounds, or would you just think them?
Well, now I can just think them and do it, but I would produce them vocally. And the story that really turned this all around is knowing from where I was working that my hearing was different from other people. Mm-hmm. And I was also teaching at Ohio University a course called parapsychology. I wrote my thesis on that, but I can't remember what it's called. The usefulness of it or where it comes from. Mm-hmm. And I have 3 kids, a daughter, and I think she was 12 maybe at the time, overweight, and we were out in this creek where the locals hang out, and she was up on this bank where they're swinging out on a Tarzan swing, mm-hmm. and she swung out, people were daring her, and she couldn't hold on, and she fell about 12 feet into water on her knees, very shallow water. Mm. And when I got to her, the lower part of her right leg was hanging off to one side, and you could see the bubbly adipose tissue. You could see veins, and I knew I was going to watch my daughter die because we were half hours from help. But there was this guy there who had a red T-shirt, and I grabbed that and I wrapped it around really tight, and I knelt between her and a leg because I didn't want her to see what was happening. And just these sounds came, and so I just repeated them, and they finally got an ambulance there. It was before cell phones, and they took her to the hospital in the ambulance. I think I'm in shock. I'm behind her doing my sounds.
In another car or in the ambulance?
In the back, and I'm sorry, I was in the car behind her.
Gotcha.
Not in back with her. And I knew almost everybody in the emergency room because I had been teaching them laying on hands healing and some of Dolores Krieger's work just because I could do it. And I didn't know how I was doing it, but I was trying to share the knowledge. Well, when we got in there, the nurse said, "Sherry, it's okay. You can let go. You can quit doing the sounds." And at that moment, my daughter started to scream. She had busted the bone down the front. She had torn loose all the vessels, even some of the large veins and behind her knee. But when they came, they put a cast on her leg, and they just thought this was something simple. And they were kind of laughing about it because a fly got in this cast. Oy. And they walked her through this water up to their necks with her in a stretcher. And so they really didn't think a whole thing about it until she started screaming. And there was sand down in that pocket that had ripped loose. She's in the hospital for 49 days, 3 operations. Nobody knows how she didn't bleed to death. And my husband and I got together after we were both in shock about this and decided that if we could build a handheld device that could do what my voice does, and we could get people to use it in an ambulance or whatever, parents wouldn't have to watch their children die. If we could supply that. We have something similar now. We have an EpiPen by sound. That's a similar thing, but that's the beginning. I just think it had a mind of its own, and I was tagging along.
Wow. So just to go back a bit. So you were taking a degree in parapsychology at the Ohio State University?
It was Ohio University.
Ohio University.
I was taking a degree in interpersonal communication because I could tell things about people's voices that they weren't saying.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell who was lying. We had a class in perception, and I tried to teach people how to tell when people are lying. And that's a whole other story in a course. But what I was trying to do was figure out what the voice was really telling us. I was teaching parapsychology on the side because I could do things in that class that I couldn't explain, and I couldn't find anybody else who was teaching anything about it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just decided to start a course.
Gotcha. Now, to do these, we'll call it it's almost like a reading in a sense. You're reading the person through the sound of their voice. Did you also need to see the person, for instance, in the case of telling whether somebody was telling the truth or not, or were you just going entirely on the sound?
I didn't need to see them, and what we were trying to figure out is how we could take what I was doing and put it in some kind of tone box or something that everybody could have it. The Wright-Patterson Air Force Base helped us do some of this and find out what was going on in people's voices. And that's what we've done in the last 30 years. We started out with just looking at truth, and then health sort of fell in, and then the government wanted to know about it, and it just built itself.
Sure.
There was no plan.
Sure. Like many amazing things in life, they started with a seed, and it grew into a big tree. So it's now known, it's now scientifically accepted that you can read, or you can tell if somebody's under stress or not by reading certain things in the voice. So you were a early pioneer of being able to do that without instruments, just being able to do it by ear. And for people that find that amazing, everyone comes with a different set of abilities, and we all develop our abilities to different degrees. And to me, it's logical that there's going to be, in this vast world of, I don't know how many it is, 6 billion people, there's going to be at least a few people who've developed their hearing to a really high level of acuity. And as somebody that's worked with musicians a lot over the decades, I know that there are people. I'll give you a funny saying. You'll appreciate this. There was a great music teacher in Chicago named Walter Diet, and many of the great American musicians, Nat King Cole, Johnny Griffin, my friend Jerome Cooper, I'm just drawing a blank, but it's literally dozens of musicians actually went through high school with that one teacher. And one of the students said he could hear an ant pee on cotton. And so so when I learned about you and your skill, I wasn't shocked or surprised or amazed. It's normal to me because I have occasionally encountered people in the musical realm who have that incredible fine-tuning of hearing. They can hear things that we can't imagine. And you made such an interesting point that because of your childhood and how you grew up, you were undisturbed. You weren't hearing jackhammers and airplanes and car alarms going off and all that kind of stuff. You were just hearing the sounds of nature, and you were a curious kid and very engaged, obviously, with what was around you, and you put yourself into it. And there's this concept of neuroplasticity, which basically says our brains are quite mobile. And if somebody like Sherry decides that she loves something and she really wants to listen to it acutely, she'll actually change her brain. And we all have neuroplasticity. If you don't believe that, think of what you were like when you were 6 years old. Think of what you're like today. Your brain changed a lot. So our brains are always changing, and if we work on them in a positive way, we can develop these positive skills. So it's just so interesting. So I want to go back to that very first experience. So they were playing tones for you as a test of your hearing.
Yes.
Is that right?
And they came in and said, "What are you hearing? Your hearing is off the scale. It's about 3 times normal. I'm picking up some sounds there." And this guy had the high blood pressure, and he asked me to do the sound. I did, and he dropped to his knees. He wanted that sound, so he didn't have to take the medication. we did a project with School of Nursing. Good grief, I can't think of the name. Hearing and speech, there it is. Nursing and music.
Okay.
And found out that we could control people's blood pressure by 20 points, up and down, which means with these sounds, we could kill people.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably why the government called you. They were probably,
yes.
Knowing how they work, I bet they were curious about that. Now, by the way, if anybody says, well, I can't believe this is possible, I've never heard, my martial arts friend who toured China, and he spent years there in the early days before it got modernized, one of the things he also learned was the samurai yell, and it was absolutely used as a weapon, and it would make somebody's knees buckle. And now I understand why. It would lower their blood pressure. Now you say tones. Are these equivalent to notes, like particular frequencies?
Yes, but there is the blooming of all of this. When we keep it in an esoteric perspective, it's just a sound. When we started looking at this as numbers, like A is 440 or 442, then it just began to explode because I have this knack for number patterns. My husband has this knack for words. He can look at Scramble and know what the word is instantly.
Okay.
I can look at somebody's frequencies and know what disease they have, or what stress, or what organ is stressed. And this started out, they were calling it psychic. But it isn't psychic anymore because we now know what's happening, and we have created a way for other people to learn it. And also we have an online workstation where they can go and give a vocal sample, and they'll get a report, and it'll tell them, okay, this, and this is stressed. We've been doing a lot with radiation in Fukushima for a few years now, and almost everyone has a lack of glutathione from radiation. And that report will tell that to them, and what kind of radiation is going on and what the antidote is. And in the case of radiation, people have had too many x-rays or too many airplane rides or Fukushima and eating the fish that are tainted. They can go right to their health food store and buy reduced glutathione, and that'll help their body remove that from their system, and then their body gets well.
Well, have you noticed, because you've been doing this so long, have you noticed a sort of a before and after Fukushima? In other words, more people with radiation effects after Fukushima?
Absolutely. The biggest one that we have noticed, in 2010, we did a study on Gardasil. And the frequencies, the notes, you can call them, or the frequencies of the Gardasil vaccines related to things like testosterone and estrogen and follicle-stimulating hormone, every one of them related to reproduction. And they gave extra money to inner-city poor in rural America to give a big marketing push for those two groups, especially to get Gardasil. And I predicted then we're going to have birth rates go down, infertility go up, and here it is.
Wow.
It's all
again,
over the news.
Yep, and it's absolutely true. Just spend a minute on Google, and you will see that for the first time in decades, life expectancy is going down, birth rates are going down in the United States. Other modern countries are not experiencing that to the degree that we are. And again, for people that are thinking, well, this is just too much, this is impossible, there has been quite a bit of warfare, chemical warfare on the poor over the decades. We have some stuff about that on our other website, Brass Check, and some of it's just very blunt. They didn't even use anything fancy. There was a period when George Bush was involved before he became president, or even vice president. And if a young woman went to the medical clinic on an Indian reservation, they were targeting Native Americans. 9 times out of 10, they would sterilize her in the process of whatever it is she went. If she had a broken arm, they'd sterilize her. If she had the flu, they'd sterilize her. So this idea of population control using medical treatment, I'm putting all that in quotes, is not unusual in the United States. Unfortunately, it's been going on for quite a while. So if you hear what Sherry's saying and say, "Well, I can't imagine how that could be," imagine it, folks, and you can look it up. It's a sad chapter of our history, and of course, the Gardasil thing is one of the most sinister. We saw that coming too way back when you did 10 years ago or more. It made no sense. The HPV is not a known precursor to cervical cancer. Why would you expose people to any vaccine that's not absolutely 1,000% necessary? They were pushing it so hard, and you probably know this, that the woman that was head of the CDC,
Diane Harper.
Yeah, for folks that don't know, her very next job was working for Merck. She's the one that rammed Gardasil down our throats. Her very next job was working for Merck. I believe she got a $20 million stock bonus for signing, and I mean, unbelievable that these things can go on. But it's exactly what happened. So let's go back to this idea of numbers. So you had the natural gift of hearing things that other people couldn't hear, and then I guess what happened bit by bit, you started to learn. When people say intuitive, it's usually this trial and error that they're not even aware of. They're trying all kinds of things, and next thing you know, they kind of figure it out. So the next step, or actually, it sounds like during your childhood even, you were able to produce tones and sounds that could relieve the suffering of the people around you.
But I didn't know how I was doing it. And we went to the NIH and asked what we should do because we were getting results. Like the pain bones were healing quicker, hives were going away. And they said, "We've never heard of this before. We don't know what it is. Let's look at some other heads of departments." And they got together as a group there and decided to do this as case studies. And just to go ahead with collecting case studies and comparing them. Now, in 2004, we were able to release the idea that people with similar proteins or diseases or syndromes had similar vocal anomalies. And we released that in 2004. And since then, the Mayo Clinic, MIT, I get stuff every day of people who are picking this up and trying to look at it. Fountain of Youth, we have the Fountain of Health. It's coming from us as a foundation, and the other people are working on it. But let's go back to Diane Harper again for a minute. When she said this should never be given to anyone under 15 years of age, when she was working on it, and she took this back. She said it while she's working on it. She went to Merck and she took back her statement that it does not cure cancer and shouldn't be used for that. And that's what they're touting it as. Now, we're looking at this, and you guys deal with government stuff too. New York now has decided that to go to preschool, 3- and 4-year-olds have to get this HPV shot.
No, really?
And
that's terrible.
And any man under 49 years of age, this is for cervical warts, cervix, head of the uterus. And they're forcing it down people. You can't go to school. You can't go out in public. You have to have this. Great people fighting it. But this is the first step in the de Blasio running for president. They're going to make New York and California the ideal, and they're even forcing the Jewish people to do this, and it's totally against their religion, and they're fighting back, and you see what's happening. They're getting attacked. So this is much more than one shot, and it's outrageous. in what's happening with it. When you look at Lisa Fayed, she is a reporter about HPV, and she says children ought to be able to get their vaccines without their parents' interference.
Terrible, yeah. Unbelievable.
And then in North Carolina, they were giving children iPods if they take this shot and not tell their parents. It's in the news. I mean, this is an entire population control issue, and that's just one aspect. Glyphosate another one, the vaccines, who you're getting in as your officers. You have taken on educating the people about all of these things, and people are complacent because they don't believe the government would really do what's happening. But you watch New York, that's coming for all of it. Gun confiscation, all of that.
Well, again, I have to give some context for people that say, oh, sure, this can't be real. You're exaggerating. No, I live in New York State. We have a county called Rockland County. And for a brief time, they weren't able to get away with it, thank goodness. They were sued. The county executive declared that any child that didn't have all his vaccines had to stay home. Not only couldn't go to school, but couldn't even leave the house, couldn't go to the library, couldn't go to a doctor's office, couldn't go anywhere. And I know that in the state of California, where they've changed the laws radically, physicians are now afraid. They took away the medical exemption. They took away the conscience exemption. But now they supposedly allowed the medical exemption. But somebody did some research. I think they made 150 calls to 150 different medical offices in California, posing as a family, saying, well, our child has autism. He had a bad reaction. It's documented, and we'd like to get a medical exemption. Not one single physician's office of the 100 plus that these researchers called was willing to even consider writing up a medical exemption. So the noose is tightening, folks. This is not exaggeration on Sherry's part at all. And we need to be aware, and we need to be outspoken. And I'm looking at an article as we speak from 2015, and it's from the Harvard Medical School, and it says why public schools should require HPV. And this MD says the following: the vaccine, which can be given as early as 9 years of age, is highly effective against the strains of HPV that cause problems. Well, what problems do they cause? What are they talking about? So it's a dark time. We are clearly living in the dark ages when it comes to medicine and public health. We have a lot of people who are either sinister or highly misled, who are doing a lot of bad things. So let's get back to the light, the good stuff.
Could I make one comment?
Please,
I think history will look back on this vaccine age as like sacrificing virgins for a good crop. It's that stupid.
Yeah, I think so too. I hope we make it to the point where we can look back and see. Because I worry, human beings can survive a lot, but when you undermine the health of generations at such a fundamental level, then where do we go from there?
I'm going to make a very strong statement that I've never made on any show anywhere.
Okay.
Bioacoustics has the ability to reverse what these people are trying to do, reverse the damage to our genes and our proteins. That's why it's so important to get out there. That's why we treat people free. That's why I worked for free for 5 years trying to get this to the people and separating the bad guys from the good guys. The bad guys are manipulating, withholding, trying to make us do it their way. The good guys, like you, are giving people the entire truth so the people can make up their decisions about what they want to do. But very few of us have an antidote or an answer. We say this is going to happen. What we are trying to share with people are the tools and solutions to back off the damage that the bad guys have created, and probably for greed.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I do think, unfortunately, it is just pure greed. I mean, I'm a business person, in addition to all the other things I do, and everybody wants a market. You need a market to sell your goods to, and the vaccination market is the only marketplace I know where you can force an entire population to get your product. And it's also, given that the government is now doing the enforcing, you don't even have to spend money to market it. And then to make it even better for these demons, they're exempt from any lawsuits relating to the damage that their products create. It's a money play. It's absolutely a money play. And you see Bill Gates, he made all his money with software. Well, now he's in the vaccine business. People should also be aware that Google is heavily in the vaccine business. So when you see Google censoring health information, which it clearly is doing now, we've done many shows on that. It's not a theory. It's reality. They are actually lining their own pockets because they stand to profit. I mean, this model that the only way people can be healthy is to have something injected into your blood that was grown on a pig fetus or a monkey fetus or even using human fetuses. I mean, it's never in the history of humanity have people had such a primitive, backward view of how to maintain human health, and yet that's becoming the model. In fact, I have a little book here I'm trying to educate myself, and it's on microbiology, and it's sort of a basics book for people that are trying to get the basics. And I realized as I was reading the book, they're talking about immunity and treating people and so on. Nowhere do they talk about the wonders of natural immunity, what we're born with. Nowhere do they talk about the things that damage immunity in our daily life. Nowhere do they talk about how you can improve your immunity. The whole book is about, here's these microorganisms, here's what they do to you, and here's the drugs and vaccines you need to take. There's absolutely nothing about nutrition, about stress, about prayer, about avoiding toxins, certainly nothing about bioacoustics. It's all take these drugs, get these injections. I mean, it's the Dark Ages. It's worse than the worst of the Dark Ages from 1,000 years ago. So if we could go back to the evolution of this, so you had this tremendous hearing. You intuitively sort of figured out as a child that certain sounds and tones could help people with certain ailments. Then you were in this acoustic lab where they were playing tones for you, and you were hearing things you weren't supposed to be able to hear because they were too low. And they tried to figure out, well, what are you hearing, Sherry? And then when you recreated the tune, you brought this man to his knees because the tone that you created was a blood pressure lowering tone. You took that insight and continued to work on it, and then you got involved in the numeric processing of tones. So can you tell a little bit about how that came to be and why that's so significant for all of us?
Well, a lot of it comes from the Jewish and Hebrew religion, and that numbers are letters. I don't know enough about it. I want to know more. Mm-hmm. But if I look at somebody's vocal print and we put it on a matrix, and by where the numbers lay down, mm-hmm. there's patterns that indicate, well, that's heart disease, and that's lung problem, and now she's pregnant, and it's all there in the numbers. I haven't figured out all the code, but I figured out enough that we are now offering, I can't say diagnostic, we're offering mm-hmm. Preliminary reports for people. So right now I think it's BioDiet. So they can go to our site. It's online. It's free. It's a workstation for people who are interested in monitoring their own health. And if they want to look at the Gardasil's up there too. We leave about 6 a month up so people can look at the damage that Gardasil has done numerically. We could say bioacoustically, because I am not allowed to say we heal anything or prescribe anything. We can only support optimal form and function. So when the numbers don't match up, when 2 and 2 is 17, we know you have an immune issue. And we've just learned that over the years.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, we know from the Bible that they had some knowledge of sound that was unusual. The famous walls of Jericho. Somehow they were able, and by the way, our military knows all about this. They were able to hit a certain tone, and you can do that with, you can knock a bridge down with the right resonance. You just have to get the right tone for, that resonates correctly, and you'll cause a structure to collapse. I mean, it's not even debatable anymore. It's not used, it's not talked about a lot, but it's certainly known. So the name of this website is
Sound Health Portal.
Okay, great.
.com.
Great. So let me write that out and take a look at it, and we'll maybe talk about it. So I'm at soundhealthportal.com, and it's typical website. So we have one button that says services, another one that says products, another one that says support, sign in. Services. And by the way, I would say that basically what you're making available to the public for free is basically a vocal print. If you're curious about what your voice looks like or what numbers it throws out when you speak, you provide that information to people. So let's go under campaign. So what's a campaign? What does campaign mean in your work?
Okay, pick BioDiet, and it'll say, okay, send us a vocal print, and it'll show you how, tell you what microphone to use. You talk for 30 seconds, say, that's it, please do this, and within 12 hours, depending on how backed up we are, they will send you 3 to 5, 10, if it's a big issue, a report, and you don't know what any of that means. So we give you a 15-minute free consultation to explain it and to help you understand what it says, and that it's not medical, but it's a preliminary report to start where you, what's really going on. The computer is much more accurate than I am. I can give somebody a sound and from a picture or whatever, but please don't do that. I'm just snowed under. But if it's really important and someone's dying, I'll cooperate and try to get it for you. And even looking at someone's face, and this is the esoteric side, the unbelievable side. Mm-hmm. I can look at someone and do their sound and tell what's going on. The last one we did, lady in a coma, and they didn't know what was wrong. My vocal print created a spine and looked like blood running through it. And sure enough, she had a spinal bleed that they hadn't caught. That's the science, the esoteric piece that keeps me moving on, because we have an ace in a hole, me, of being able to look at that, and then we go try to prove it scientifically.
Well, what's interesting about this is I was talking earlier about China, an very ancient civilization, sort of an unbroken culture for many thousands of years, many brilliant people, many of them interested in humanity and health. And in Asia, they've developed a whole science of facial diagnosis that's very sophisticated. So for folks that are thinking, well, how could you look at somebody's face and know anything? Well, there's thousands and thousands of doctors in China that can do something like that. And it just sounds like, Sherry, you've taken this with your other talents and sort of combined the facial reading with the ability to produce tones. So the campaigns are changing all the time, right? You offer different campaigns at different times?
Yes.
Okay, so currently, just so as we record this, which is January 8th, 2020, and this will change in the future, but the current campaigns are Parkinson's, Gardasil, stem cells, golf, which is interesting. I'm going to ask you about that, BioDiet, neuroplasticity, and PTSD, TBI. Let's start with the one that you started off with, BioDiet. What does BioDiet mean in your work?
it looks at the neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine, that keep you from losing weight.
Okay. Okay.
And we thought that was great for around the holidays.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Okay. So it's a diet based on biological understanding
of neurotransmitters and neuroplasticity. We're also doing a 2-day free class this month. We have one every month on BioDiet, and we give you the software and teach you how to use it so then you can help your family, your friends, add it to your business.
Got it. So the BioDiet part is for people that are having trouble losing weight.
Yeah, so packed on a bit.
They had too much Christmas and holiday cheer. The neuroplasticity one, what's that campaign about?
It is paracetam and all of the issues, the proteins in the brain that are being disturbed, and we look at how people use choline, which leads to Alzheimer's, and how they use, can't think of other things, glycine, and how that leads to Parkinson's.
Glycine leads to Parkinson's?
Yes, the inability, this is some of Stephanie Seneff's work, the inability of the body to process glycine, glutamate, glutathione is the same, these are the same frequencies as MSG and some of the glyphosates in Roundup. So that is causing a lot of the overweight in the middle, and that's what we've decoded, and we'll be offering that to people.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've actually talked with Stephanie about the fact that glyphosate is so similar to glycine, and glycine is an amino acid, of course, and you need it, to continually rebuild and repair yourself. And if your body's grabbing the glyphosate instead of the glycine, you're going to have problems with your organs and muscles and so on. So if somebody believes that they want their brain to work better, they would try the neuroplasticity campaign. Is that what you mean?
Yes, and it would tell them what nutrients they need, what's too high, what's too low, how to make it work. But picture this, everything has a receptor, and the number of receptors in the body shows you how important each thing is. And when you look at glycine and glutathione, glutamate, they have like 11 receptors, meaning it's very important. It's up there with insulin. But you have a number, and you put this all in numbers, and it makes so much sense. Here's a receptor. In order to open that receptor, it has to have the frequency of, say, 10. I'm making that up.
Okay.
So 10 comes along, and the cell opens and lets it in. But a 5 and a 5, which is like glycine, that's a perfect combination. But if you look at glyphosate and MSG and those, they're a 9 and a 1, making it 10. Very unbalanced. So when you take everything in the body, and everything in the world actually is frequency. And we are made of these frequency patterns, and we can be manipulated by them. So you are getting the glyphosate coming in instead of the glycine. The muscles get stiff. The garbage isn't taken out because of glutathione, and the body develops a nerve problem. And we can look at that. We have one program called Parkinson's Commons. Parkinson's is so misdiagnosed, and it has about 10 different programs inside it. That is this really tetanus? Is this really stiff man syndrome? Is this really nerve deterioration? That's what the computer can do, because it can crunch all those numbers and give us a pattern, and that's what we want people to have, so they can have dominion over their own health. But it's like somebody's trying to pour poison in you as you're trying to take it out. It's getting hard to do.
Yeah, we've devoted dozens of shows to that. So many things right now just coming to mind. This craze for air fresheners. that, you go to the literally, I don't know about what it's like where you live, but in our supermarket, there's literally now nearly an entire aisle devoted to every possible flavor of air freshener. They're all neurotoxic. They're all horrible. And people are being fooled into buying them and spraying their houses and putting them everywhere in the house. So that's an example of we're being poisoned. Unfortunately, in that case, people are poisoning themselves voluntarily. But there's somebody who has a name that's a little bit like yours. You may probably have heard of her, Sherry Rogers. Yeah, and Sherry and she's an MD, and she makes a really interesting point that health is a matter of the right nutrition, getting the toxins out, and then the thing that you said, energy. Because if she says this, the only difference between a live body and a dead body is the animation of energy. Without that free flowing of energy in the body, you're done. And the Chinese, again, I'm referring back to the Chinese. They've been at this for 5,000 years. A big part of their medicine, which is very effective, is the positive manipulation of energy and energy flows in the body. So what you're doing is in keeping with these fundamental understandings. So when somebody goes, people go to Sound Health Portal, they go to services. Under services, they're going to see the campaigns. Right now, as I mentioned, there's 7, Parkinson's, Gardasil, and these are constantly changing. How do I decide which campaign? Do I have to decide one campaign and I think my problem is diet, or I think my problem is PTSD, or I think my problem is I need stem cell. I don't know. How do we choose the right? How do we know we're choosing the right campaign?
You really don't. And if you don't choose, they will give you nutrition or muscles. And from me looking at it and setting up for that 15-minute consultation, we can tell you more about it. And we would recommend, or not allowed to recommend, we would say, maybe this food or this vitamin or this doctor or this program. Right now we're working on adding Ebola. It is crazy that all of a sudden they've got a vaccine for Ebola and it's live and it hasn't been tested and they're going to put it in people.
Unbelievable.
And it's been exempted from the payout fund if they cause a problem.
You're kidding.
Look it up.
I believe everything you say. I know. I always say you're kidding, but I know how these things work. So I know that this is something coming. People should do some research on the great flu epidemic that came after World War I, and they should ask themselves the question: why was it that Greece was immune from the Great Flu? It doesn't make any sense. That flu supposedly traveled everywhere. Was there a gate at Greece that wouldn't let the flu through? No, what happened was the U.S. produced a ton of vaccines that it intended to use on U.S. troops, and the war ended, quote, too soon. I mean, thank God it ended when it did. It saved a lot of lives. But it ended too soon. They had this vast inventory of unused vaccines, and they started selling it all over the world. The country of Greece said, no thanks, we don't want it. And they were the only country that was immune to the great flu epidemic, because it's starting to look like the great flu epidemic was not any kind of a flu. It was a vaccine-created epidemic. These things are history, and we have to face them. So I'm going to ask this question again. Maybe I come to soundhealthportal.com. I click on the services. I see the current menu of campaigns. Does it matter which campaign I click when I do my voice print?
Yes, because it gives you an explanation of each of the campaigns and what you could look for. If you're depressed or anxious, do PTSD. If you're overweight, use BioDiet. If you're concerned about infertility, use Gardasil. And if you want to ask for a special one, we can do that too. That information is on soundhealthoptions.com, and that has information and videos and listing of all the classes that you can attend and do this for your community.
Great. And can people attend these classes online?
Absolutely.
Oh, great, great. So when I go to, for people that don't have their computer handy, I'll just tell you what I see. So when I go to Sound Health Options, I see the usual About Us that everybody has, clinical services, classes, and you offer bioacoustic technician training, bioacoustic professional training, Guardians of the People, portal presentations. Then there's the bioacoustic shop, and it says software download. So can people get this analysis software from you directly?
They can. We give the people who are taking the 2-day class, we give them several computer programs for them to be able to use for their family or set up a business. They can take it for free, or they can take it if they want to set up a business. And one is free, but this is hard to explain. There's a $30 fee to sign up, and that's because we would say it's all free and 100 people would show up or sign up and 10 would show up.
Yeah.
So now we make them give us, I think it's $30 up front to sign up, but we give them that back if they really show up for class.
Gotcha. That's actually something that a colleague of mine did in the internet marketing world. Oh my goodness, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's a valid thing. Otherwise, you have all these folks that have what they say no skin in the game, whereas if they put a little money in, they're a little bit more likely to come. So all the information about the classes is on your website. Do you maintain an email list? Can people subscribe to an email list and get updates from you?
I think that's on the Sound Health Options. And also we're just developing one for professionals. And it's Bioacoustic Solutions, and I think that's .net. They can sign up there, but that's for people who want to do this as a profession, and it has all the marketing stuff there. And again, those classes are on the portal, and we have a portal class every Tuesday. It's all free.
Great. So bioacousticsolutions.net. Yeah, absolutely. It's there. And there's quite a bit of information there, articles, videos, your upcoming events, all these different things. So if somebody wants to get involved in this, do they go to the soundhealthoptions.com site, and is that where they can sign up for the class?
Yes, and if they want to go to the portal, they don't have to sign up or anything because there are tutorials there that walk them through everything.
Oh, great. Which is the portal? What web address is that?
The soundhealthportal.com.
It's called
campaigns are.
Oh, okay. That's where we were just before. Okay, great. So and then on the Sound Health portal, you pick the campaign that seems most relevant to your interests. And when you do that, there's some text and information to give you some some background, and then you can you can send your it says there's a button that says send your voice file, and when you click on that, so just to prepare people when they for this, they talk about the kind of microphone that you need, best recording practices, and then there, I see it. It's a button, a red button that says record. You press record and you speak into your microphone. And what happens then? I guess you have to put your name somewhere. Do you sign up first?
Well, you have to give us your email address so we can send you the report.
Gotcha.
And so from there, they send you a report and they send me a report. And if I see something really interesting that I want to look at, I'll dig deeper into it. Maybe we don't have enough data on people who are susceptible to Ebola. So I'm gathering all that kind of information from the thousands of people who leave us a vocal print. That's how we're able to collect data. Okay, here's 1,000 people that have diabetes. But we're kind of keeping that to ourselves because insurance companies are using it. And a couple have gotten sued for collecting health information through vocal prints. When you call in, it says it's being recorded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of them was in Montana. I can't remember who it was, but I'm really looking for anything about vaccine damage. We just did a big Parkinson's. So the next one, I think, to protect the people, we need to look at anybody who's been exposed to Ebola.
Got it. Got it. So
data collection.
Got it. And of course it's voluntary. You're not stealing people's data. People are saying, "Hey, here's my voice print. Please add me to the database." And it's interesting that insurance companies are using voice prints to identify people with pre-existing illnesses.
Looks like it.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Glad we're learning. I'm glad we're learning about this, because no one else is telling us about it other than you. So it looks like the first thing somebody needs to do is sign up on this Sound Health portal. First, you sign up for the free membership, and then you upload.
That's called The Apprentice, and we give you software to work right there on your own independently. So we're trying to do this like an autonomous course for busy people.
Well, right now I'm on the services part where they're on a campaign page, and they're going to upload. They decide, yes, I want to upload my voice sample, and it looks like one needs to join the community first, and then with that, after you've joined, then you upload your voice print. Is that the correct procedure?
That's true, and what we need there is just a place to send your report. That's the clinical side. We also have an educational side, where we teach people to do this on their own.
Somewhere on your site, maybe it's on your site, or I saw it on YouTube, you do have some testimonials from physicians. Wasn't there? It's been a while since I studied the site, but wasn't there a physician that had some kind of really terrible degenerative tissue disease, and it just wasn't healing? And you worked with him, and lo and behold, it turned around.
There's a lot of them there. It's Miracles of Non-Medicine. It's a professionally done video, and we give it out free to people.
Okay.
There's another one there. It's called Adrian's Story. She had been in a hospital for 20 years. Her father had us on his show about Parkinson's, and we took her on as a client and was able to discover a very rare form of Parkinson's that the medical community had missed for years. That's the wonderful thing about being able to look at all the numbers all at once, so no blood tests and things like that. So that's a really poignant story if somebody wants to download it.
I see if people go to YouTube, the video is called Miracles, just as Sherry said, of non-medicine. There is a YouTube channel called Sound Health. I see. There's a lot of material there. So for YouTube users, if you want to dig deep into this, I see almost a countless number of videos. In fact, I see an interview with our friend Stephanie Seneff on your channel. Oh my goodness! Yeah, there's an endless number of videos here. So I know a lot of people like YouTube. So another way, in addition to going to the websites that we talked about, is just go to YouTube and look up the Sound Health channel, and wow, you're going to see a lot of videos. So
there's a lot of demos on Vimeo too.
On Vimeo as well. Oh, great. Okay, great. Let me see. I'm sort of test piloting all this for my users, my subscribers. Vimeo, and
that one's just under my name.
Okay, so it's Sherry. It's Sharry Edwards, and if you type that into Vimeo, there it is. Lots and lots and lots of. Oh, I'm excited. I'm really excited about this. Because this is new material. This is new information, and it's not something that we can convey 100% in just a short phone call. So the purpose of the call is to introduce people to Sherry and her story and her work, and open the door and say, here's the sites, here's the videos. I see I see a lot of interesting videos I'm going to watch when we're off the phone. So just to take this full circle, so it all starts with the voice print. Somebody speaks, records their voice. It gets uploaded to your system. Then is it automatically run through this what you call the matrix? It's a computer program that analyzes all the different frequencies in the voice.
And it gives you a report with a ranking of what's most important for you to look at.
Great. I'm going to talk about not the details of my report. I did this, everybody, just so you know. So, for example, I get to visually see the vocal print, and then I see a whole bunch of items, and sometimes they're marked L, sometimes they're marked H, sometimes they're marked double H, sometimes they're marked double L. Is there a triple H, or is it just go?
No, it depends on where your voice lays down on a grid. A 1 is something you should really pay attention to. And if it's an HH, it's a red flag. High is high.
So a 1,
something in stress.
Got it. So a 1 means high priority, top priority.
Yes.
And 2 secondary, 3 tertiary, and then low. A low means
very lowest low. Like somebody has a low on zinc, they'll have trouble making insulin. Their thumb will be weak, and so it'll put all that in there by frequency. Now, bioacoustically speaking, almost everything is something else.
Oh, okay.
And so if you have a number that says, okay, metformin is high, and you're not taking it, it simply means that the frequency for metformin, the medication, is high, and we should look at what it represents besides metformin. Metformin is very close to insulin.
Okay. Okay, so it's not 100% sure until you do some inquiry.
Yes.
Okay,
and we
got
make it so things are underlined, and they can punch that, and it'll take them to a reference, so they don't have to look up everything on their own.
Got it. Got it. So if LL means lowest low, and just a straight L means low, and H means high, and does high mean highest high? HH?
Yes.
Got it.
That's the most urgent. The double ones are most urgent. But if, say, somebody has low zinc, and they punch it, and it tells you, okay, zinc comes from peanuts, and I don't know what else, but it helps them put together their health scheme, or whatever you want to call it, program. It will monitor what's going on.
So if you've got your own program, you can monitor yourself over time, I guess, and see how you're changing.
Absolutely. You're able to look at this date and compare them if you've changed your diet, or if you've used sound to do it, it'll tell you the progression.
Got it. So one of the and we all know that diet makes a big difference, and certain foods are better for us than others, and certain foods carry different nutrients. So one of the common sense interventions when anybody wants to improve their health is what you eat. Then, of course, the unique thing about what you do is sound. How is that sound provided to a person? Do they, if you think if the system says this person would benefit from this particular tone, how does the person go out and get that tone?
2 or 3 ways. One is they can do it with music, because we also give them the notes. We can create a tone box for them that talks to their brain. They can hum the sound. They can use the color of the sound. So many different ways to accomplish it. They can eat the food that has that sound. Interesting.
And there are a number of great musicians, and this is just sort of knowledge that I have because of one of my interests, who actually associate sound with color very naturally. Now, I don't do it. To me, sight and sound are completely separate. But I know that there are certain people who, when they hear a tone, it means a particular color to them, and these are often people that develop into really great musicians. So this if people are thinking, well, what could a color have to do with sound? Well, believe me, there's a lot of people that could explain that to you who experience it.
Color is just a frequency. I'll give you a really good example. Flu season's coming up, and we have created a audio tape that has been used for years to help with sinus and bronchial congestion. I'll send it to you so you can have people download it. It's free.
Okay.
James Marshall created it for us. He's an actor, and he took too much Accutane and nearly killed himself. It dissolved his guts. And he came to us after they sent him home from the hospital and said, go die, because we can't do anything else.
Wow.
And so we helped him, and he wanted to help us. Not many people know that he is a musician and writes a lot of music for movies. And he's back to work now, and he wanted to give people something. And so he wrote this music based on the frequencies that we told him would reverse sinus for some people. And so we give that away for free. It's called Signs of Life, I think. No, Leciel. Leciel.
Okay, and that's on, is that on one of the websites?
Yes, and I'll send you a copy. The other one, Signs of Life, that he did is for infertility.
Okay. Wow. So, and again, I'm going to take us full circle. When I started the call, I said it's known that some of the temples in Egypt were designed with acoustics, very specific acoustics in mind. There's a huge ancient structure, temple complex on the island of Malta, which is absolutely designed for sound. I mean, it produces very particular tones, very particular echoes. There's no other reason for them to build it the way they did, and it's all about sound. So, and then if you go, we haven't talked about India at all, but that's another very ancient, very sophisticated civilization. And their ancient religion is emphatic that the world is created from sound, and they have a whole science of the mantra, which is many, many different chants which have different tones, and the chants are for different purposes. For people who are reading the Bible, the Bible says it's the Word that created creation, right? The Word is a sound. So, we're not taught this in school. It's not part of our culture. You're certainly not going to see it on TV. The government's certainly not going to tell you about it. But we are sound creatures, and Sherry is with her colleagues, are doing amazing work to, get a sophisticated understanding of how we can use this for health. I'm going to put all the links that we referred to in this conversation below, so everybody can follow up. It's a deep and exciting study, and there's a lot of resources for you, and Sherry's made them available for free, so it's hard to beat that. And again, some of this is, I'm guaranteed that a lot of this is new to a lot of people, but the more you dig into it, the more you're going to find that sound is really, really, really powerful. Everything vibrates. Every cell vibrates. An atom is basically a vibrating thing. So we're basically made of vibration ultimately. So which is another form of sound. So we're made of sound, So Sherry, this is just such an amazing thing. I'm so glad, and so many great things have come from the mountains of Appalachia, and you and this study, this wonderful study, are one of them. And thank you for all the work you do to bring this to us and to share it with people so they can do their own explorations. Because I think you'd be the first to say that, this is for everybody to explore. This is not your private preserve that you're holding close to the vest. You're making this available wide open so people can take it and run with it and work with it and learn from it and explore it, because the planet needs it, human beings need it.
I think it's our future. It was our past. It's becoming our future. Frequency is everything, and everything is frequency. And that's the truth with a capital T.
I believe it, and I'm really excited to go further, and seeing all these videos excites me because I'm a video watcher. I learn best from video demonstrations, so there's absolutely no shortage of them on Vimeo, on YouTube, and on your various sites. So thank you so much, Sherry Edwards. I appreciate you very much. Glad to meet you finally and get a chance to talk with you. And everyone, I encourage you to go look, whether you're a Vimeo person or a YouTube person or an internet person who likes to go straight to websites. There are many doors to enter this wonderful information.
Well, thank you for allowing me to share, even though we've only scratched the surface.